everybody. I'm John Call. I know this is a little different for everybody doing Sunday school and church online, but we hope you're doing well. We're going to do a very short lesson today, just kind of an overview. Did want you to know that I have typed up more detailed notes that will be on this website, and they're linked from the front page, www.farmercalls.com, if you wanted to go through those by yourself or with your family. Today's lesson is about Jesus being dedicated at the temple. A lot of times we don't think about it, but up until the death of Christ and his resurrection, we're still under the Old Testament and Old Testament law. And today's lesson gives a beautiful picture of what life was like under the law and what people were doing, and also the anticipation of the Messiah. So this lesson talks about Jesus being circumcised. It talks about Joseph and Mary going to the temple for their cleansing after giving birth, and then we see an interaction with two other people, one named Simeon and one named Anna, as they both have prophetic insight into who Jesus is and what he will do. All of these are themes that point to the faithfulness of God and his faithfulness to us by keeping his promises. And so we see God keeping his promises to us about the Messiah. And all of these things that this lesson talks about can really be summed up in God's faithfulness. So today, since this is shorter, that's the direction I'm going to go. So if you want more details about the temple and who Simeon and Anna were, you'll need to dig deeper into the Sunday school lesson, and you can do that through the notes that are online. So why is God's faithfulness important? A lot of times we don't think about that a lot of things that happen isn't about our faith, which can be weak, but it's about God's faithfulness to us and him keeping his promises. So first of all, say that mankind needs God's faithfulness. We all desperately need God to be faithful, because if he doesn't, we're too weak on our own to do anything for ourselves. I'm reminded of the man who came to Jesus and said, "I believe, help my unbelief." Here was a man who had faith, but he didn't have enough faith, and he knew he didn't have enough faith. But Jesus worked through the faith that he had and showed God's faithfulness to this man. So even in our weakness, we see God remaining faithful to us. So God is always faithful to his word. I have a couple of scriptures I'm going to read. In Joshua 21:45, says, "Not one of all of the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled." And in Lamentations 2:17, it says, "The Lord has done what he planned. He has fulfilled his word, which he decreed long ago." And so we see a faithfulness of God to his word. When he tells us something in his word, we know that he will do it. He says that he will do it, and he has proven over and over again that he will do it. And tying that back to the lesson, there are just hundreds and hundreds of messianic prophecies about who Jesus would be and what he would do. And we begin to see how God's faithfulness ties into his plan for the Messiah. That no matter what man did, no matter how man failed, and every man and woman in the Bible did fail in some way, God was faithful to bring about his promises of the Messiah and to save us despite our failures. The other way that God is faithful is he's always faithful to his children. We see God being faithful to those of us who know him. In Psalm 91:4, he says, "He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you may seek refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and a bulwark." So we see this picture for those of you who may not know what pinions are. We'll talk about the younger folks out there. That's like the feathers at the end of the wings. And if you've ever seen a mother hen bring her babies in around her and spread her wings, this is the picture that God is saying he is like. He's like that mother hen who's spreading his wings out to protect his children. And it says his faithfulness is a shield for us. So it's a beautiful picture of God's faithfulness to his children, that no matter what circumstances we might find ourselves in, he is faithful to us. Another beautiful thing, God does not change, so he can always be trusted. One way we can know he is faithful and always faithful, God doesn't change. He tells us over and over again of his unchangeability. His love doesn't change. His faithfulness doesn't change. Malachi 3:6 says, "For I, the Lord, do not change. Therefore you, O children of Jacob, are not consumed." I love that verse because it reminds me that if God wasn't faithful, I would be consumed by my own sin. But we see this beautiful picture of God saying, I'm faithful to you. I'm going to keep my promises to you, and therefore you won't be consumed. And through Christ, through the Messiah, I can have life instead of death. And I will say, lastly of all, the world is not trustworthy, but God is. People who don't know Jesus, people who don't have a relationship with Jesus, do not have a firm foundation to live on. They don't have a foundation whatsoever except for themselves. And all that we have in ourselves is weakness. And so we know the world can't be trusted. The world's wisdom can't be trusted. Paul tells us over and over again, don't be deceived by empty philosophies of the world, but to trust in God. And we know God is faithful to us and to his word and maintains his promises. He sent his son so that we could have life. None of this means that everything will go our way. We're living in a moment right now when times are scary and times are hard and things may not be going the way we want them to go. So when we talk about God's faithfulness, we don't mean I'm going to get what I want or that I'm going to be safe, but we do know that God is going to love us and take care of us inside of his plan, and that his ultimate plan is for us to be with him forever. And so I want to tell you all out there to be blessed. Don't let current circumstances pull you away from who God is and what he is doing. Don't let current circumstances convince you that God isn't being faithful, because he is. Even in hard times, when we look back through the church being persecuted, when we look at other times when pandemics came through, the church has remained steadfast and faithful. And that is what I hope that we're all able to do. I hope I'm able to do, and my family and yours. And love you, and we'll be praying for you during this time. Thank you.